So for any problem where x is in the denominator, use the negative exponent property. Move it to the numerator and make that power negative instead. For any problem where x is underneath a radical, convert it to exponential form, using the form that the mth root of x to the n is the same thing as x to the n over m. Again, the numerator is the power, the denominator is the radical. Okay, it says, however, in either case, be sure to simplify your answer, no negative exponents, and or convert it back to radicals. And I can't express that enough because I cannot give you credit, even though WebAssign might give you credit. I would take away credit on a test if you do not put your final form and final answer. So even if WebAssign accepts it, I cannot accept it. You do have to put your answers in final form. So what are we talking about here? Well, let's look at one that we just did, 1 over x squared, right? That's x to the negative 2. So drop that power would be negative 2x, and then you'd have a negative 3. If you left your answer in this form, I cannot give you credit because you have a negative exponent. Make sure you throw that x back into the denominator. Same thing right here. Let's look at y equals the cube root of x to the 4th. Well, that would be x to the 4/3. Remember, your exponent is the numerator and the radical is the denominator. Now what do you do to find the derivative? Drop that power down, do the power minus 1. So that would be 4/3 x to the, well, 4/3 minus 1 is 1/3. But you cannot leave your answer in this form because it started as a radical, it has to end as a radical. So x to the 1/3, convert it back, and that would be the cube root of x. So make sure you put your answer in the final simplified form, not in the form with negative exponents or in exponential form if it started in radical form. Okay? Example 3 says finding the slope of the graph. It says find the slope of the graph of f of x equals x to the 4th at x equals -1, 0, and 1. Use the rules, not the limit definition. Okay? So here's the beauty of this. X to the 4th, we would have had to do the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. A long limit process. X plus h to the 4th, foiling it out. There's no need now. Now we can simply use the power rule. And what's the power rule say? It says the derivative is equal to, well, the derivative of x to the 4th would be 4x to the 4 minus 1, which is really 4x cubed. So that's our derivative. Now that we have the derivative, remember the derivative is the slope of the graph. Slope of the graph just means find the derivative. Okay? Find the derivative. Well, we just did. Now we need to evaluate it at these different numbers. Well, that's simply using a table, plugging it into our calculator. We have the numbers -1, 0, and 1. So I don't know if you can do these in your head or if you do want to use the table feature in your calculator, it's perfectly fine. I don't care. But if we plugged in -1, -1 cubed is -1 times 4 would be -4. 0 cubed is 0 times 4 is 0. 1 cubed is 1 times 4 is 4. So what's the slope of the graph or the derivative when x equals -1? The answer was -4. When x equals 0, we got a 0. And when x equals 1, we got a 4. So there's our derivatives at those given points. So let's look at example 4. This is a wonderful example for the test. It's a little easier than what's on the test, but the concept most definitely will be on the test, which is finding the equation of a tangent line. Again, you can use the CDF player and download this if you're a visual learner and want to see what's going on. Not required, okay? So what do we need? We need a point. Anytime we want to find the equation of a line, we need a point, we need a slope, and then we plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So that's the idea of how do we find the equation of a line. And then step 4 is solve for y. Okay? We need to find the point, we need to find the slope, we plug it into the equation, and then we solve for y. So that's always our process when we're finding the equation of a tangent line. So how do we find a point? Well, to find the point, you just plug x into the original function. To find the slope, you plug x into the derivative. The slope at the point is the derivative at that point. Okay? And then you just plug it in to that formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and solve for y. So let's go ahead and find the point. Let's do the first step of finding the point. So what do? We're going to find f of negative 2, which in this case would be negative 2 quantity squared, which is a positive 4. So that tells me that my point was when x was negative 2, my y value was a positive 4. There's the point that I need, right? Okay. Let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is find the slope. How do we find the slope? Well, the slope is the derivative. Well, what's the derivative of x squared? Well, using the power rule, that would be x squared, drop the power x to the 2 minus 1, which would be 2x to the first power, or just 2x. And now we look at it at x equals negative 2, would tell me f prime of negative 2 is 2 times negative 2, which would be negative 4. That right there is our slope. 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4, that's our slope. So we have the information we need. We have the point, we have the slope. That's exactly what we want. Now we can do part 3, which is y minus the first y value. First y value here is 4, times m, our slope is negative 4, x minus the x value, well, that would be x minus negative 2. I'm just going to go ahead and write that as a plus 2 because subtracting a negative turns into a positive, right? I'm going to distribute the negative 4 because I need to solve for y here. So I'm going to distribute that negative 4 through. When I distribute that negative 4, on the left I still have y minus 4. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x, and negative 4 times 2 would be minus 8. And then I go ahead and I add 4 to both sides so I can solve for y. And when I do that, I'm ending up with y equals negative 4x minus 4. So what's the equation of the tangent line of the graph of f of x equals x squared when x equals negative 2? The answer is y equals negative 4x minus 4. Okay, what should we see if we're a visual person and we want to see what this looks like? What we just did is we looked at the graph of x squared, which looks something like that. Here's the point right here, negative 2, 4. And what we just did was we found that equation of that tangent line right here. So this would be f of x equals x squared, and this would be the graph of y equals minus 4x minus 4. It touches exactly at that point. And notice the slope of the red line, the tangent line, is the slope of the black line, x squared, at that point. So that's what we were able to just find. No limits required. We were able to use the power rule. That's always your process for finding the equation of a tangent line. I guarantee that will be on tests 1, 2, and 3, as well as your final exam. So you need to know those.